Shit, sorry everybody, I fell down, but not as far as these other players fell. Let's check it out. Yo, what's up everybody? We're back here again. Shut up, quit laughing on We're back with another episode. We gave you the risers, now we're here to give you the fallers. Just like that performance, these guys are looking to fall flat. Thank God my editing skills are pretty good. Brennan, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Oh, man.
Good.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah, not, that's what you're getting here. Talk about sweating, man. I am on fire right now after that. But yeah, we're talking about fallers here. Do we have news? No, we don't have any news. You just got that in the last episode, folks, and it's June. Nothing exciting happens here. That's probably July, actually, by the time you're listening to this. But welcome in. We both have 5 fallers here for you, mixing it up with a handful of players. We just don't believe that they performed as well as we thought they did. The ADP is either gross or something going on here. But go ahead and open us up, Brennan. What is your first player that you have seen fall?
He's not falling yet, but I'm going to call my shot. This is my first guy. It's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. I just think by the time draft season rolls around, he's currently going at 13 in best ball, and he's going currently, I think it's around the same where he's at on Fantasy Pros. He's currently 12 on Fantasy Pros as well. I just think by the time season rolls around, come August, come training camp, I think he's going to be more closer to wide receiver like 15, 16, because you're essentially saying that he's going to be wide receiver 7 where you're taking him. I just think that's like the ultimate ceiling for him. I get it. Puka did it last season, but I would say it's more of an anomaly than it is anything. Like
Cooper Kupp went down, opened the window for that,
Yeah.
So Trey McBride getting an injury, maybe.
Yeah, and I think even then, like it's just you're asking for a lot to fall in the right places for him. I think he will be a top 3 wide receiver when he ultimately hits his prime. But going at pick 14, essentially drafting him at his ceiling, I said, I just think he's more closer to wide receiver 2 this year than he is wide receiver 1, is what I would say as my gamble for him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm in the same boat. As far as best ball, I've got a very small exposure to him just because I'm in that belief that I think I'm going to get him cheaper. I think casuals are going to, for whatever reason, they push certain players' ADPs up and down, and I think a rookie wide receiver that is being drafted higher than any other rookie wide receiver in NFL fantasy football history, like no other wide receiver has been drafted at this high of an ADP, like rookie wide receiver. So
yeah,
the fact that we're all so confident in calling our shot, he probably is. This could be the greatest, best generational prospect we've seen it come out. Like, I completely get it. But why take that risk? Why roll the dice when you can get somebody who might give a similar output later? There's so much that plays into it, and like you said, I'm right there with you, man. I don't want to take that risk.
Yeah.
All right, so my first faller. I got a little bit of a bias here. I've noticed that when I talk about the guy, but Joe freaking Burrow. Maybe he just rubbed me the wrong way going in there to the Super Bowl in year 2. Getting Jamar Chase because he tore his ACL, like that was his prize, his prize for daring that. But Joe Burrow, it's ridiculous how high this guy's going. QB8. We talked in the last episode about Jaden Daniels, the upside that he brings to you. Joe Burrow does not bring that to you. Especially after 2 seasons that he hasn't finished with injuries out of his 4 seasons. There's no reason they're going to keep pushing him and giving him that option of, maybe giving us 200 to 400 yards a season, a handful of touchdowns. I just don't see that happening. They're going to start treating him more like, Patrick Mahomes we've seen over the last couple of years. Ever since his knee injury, they treat him way differently as far as his mobility. And I think that Joe Burrow can't move like Mahomes, but also I think they're going to put him in that boat. Give me Kyler Murray, who's going right around him. Dak Prescott's not mobile, but he can sling it way more. I think Jordan Love has the ability to sling it more as well. So I just don't ever see myself taking a pocket passer not named Patrick Mahomes or Peyton Manning inside the top 8 of quarterbacks. It's too rich for my blood, and it's not a game I like to play.
So would you say he's more closer to QB2 than he is QB1?
Oh, like a QB2?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. I think my rankings, I've got him right in that like QB 10 to 14 range. I don't know exactly where he's at. All those guys are within like 20-ish points of each other, but he's definitely in that bucket of a fringe QB1, QB2 for me.
Okay. I agree with you. I think people get so enamored because like Joe Burrow is fun to watch. I think we all can agree. Like I think like when he goes against Mahomes and he goes against Allen, we when we watch it, we're enamored because like these guys, he can compete right there with them.
He's
But
a
the
winner.
numbers,
Yeah.
yeah, winning doesn't mean fantasy numbers though. I think that's what the problem is for people is that they put this like mentality of like, oh, he just wins though. He just goes and gets it. Like you have to put him above guys like that. And it's like I think that's where a lot of the casuals get kind of lost in that aspect of it. That's why he's still QB7 right now, which is crazy because like I can't see him if a 17 game full season of him versus Kyler, there's no way Kyler doesn't have more points than him because of just the rushing upside. Even with Dak, I think since he has a better team than Dallas, just because the defense is going to probably keep him in some games where Dallas, on the other hand, is probably going to be in a ton of shootouts because they let their whole team just get depleted. So
They push it all in. They're going for Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're all in. They're all into being a mid team. I got it. Yeah, I just think at the end of the day, you got to take away the name and look around and just see what's out there too. Can't be tunnel vision with some of these guys.
For sure. The name has to come down somewhere, and
Yeah.
him and Jamar Chase are not guys that I know we talked about injury prone in the last episode, but those guys we've seen battle with injuries. And if he doesn't have Jamar Chase out there, that very much, that takes away his chance of finishing as a top 5 quarterback.
Exactly. My next guy is Devon Achane. He's going currently pick 24. Brian, when we were doing best ball in May, where was he at? Like what, 16, 17?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's constantly going down. I think people are starting to realize that like if you're going to gamble on a player, by all means, this is the dude to do it for because 7 yards a touch, whatever it was for him, is crazy. That is. Now, can you honestly sit there and be like, that is sustainable for a 17-game season, along with having Tyreek Hill, along with having Jalen Waddle, along with having the guy who just put up 15 touchdowns last season in Raheem Mostert? I think there are going to be the weeks where you're like, oh yeah, this was worth it. This was 2 touchdowns, 200 yards. Like, do you not see this? But like, I think you're going to have a lot more bust games, and you're going to be more frustrated out of him when he puts up like a 40-yard game with a couple receptions and wasn't the featured, focal point of that offense. I just think when you're gambling at him to basically be your building block of your team, because if he's picked 24, that's your second pick. You are basically saying that this is a focal point that he's going to put up steady points every week, and I can't do that.
This is the ultimate risk reward player.
Yes.
If there is everyone out there, if you like to play with your balls in the bandsaw, this is the guy to do it. If you play safe, don't touch him. I love kind of how you bring up the falling ADP. I think that's where he becomes really intriguing because if I can go running back, wide receiver, Achane in the 3rd, that's completely different. But yeah, this guy is this is a player that can easily go out there, do 4 snaps and be done for the day because he tweaked his knee. He's little, he's small. That's why there were so many people that were apprehensive about him coming into the league last year. But at the same time, he gets hurt unlike anybody else. He also performs unlike anybody else. So you like swinging for the fences. I'm actually warming up to Devon Achane a lot more. Again, it's the price. If I can get him in the 3rd, it changes everything for him. But
I agree.
There's only a handful of players that have the kind of impact that he can have on a game when he plays the full game.
Yes, I agree.
Or is available. He definitely won't be seeing more than 60% of snaps ever. But
yeah.
My next guy I need to talk about here, Joshua Jacobs. Yes, the guy who went up to Green Bay. I don't know anybody who saw that one coming. We saw him getting out of town, but I just did not picture him going to Green Bay. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Devon Achane and Josh Jacobs, they're going a little bit separate. Josh Jacobs is RB12-ish right now. But I'm not a big fan. The volume's there. The contract says that he should be the guy at least for this year. Maybe they keep him longer. But the coach, he's been outright since he was in Tennessee with Deion Lewis and Derrick Henry. He likes 2 running backs. They brought in Marshawn Lloyd from USC, who gives you this explosion that Josh Jacobs, I'm calling him by his long name now, but that Josh Jacobs just doesn't give you. The inefficiency numbers were atrocious last year. Absolutely atrocious. Now, could we blame that a little bit on the scheme, the team, the line, all that kind of stuff? Absolutely. But do you want to keep betting on that? Do you want to see that continue in Green Bay, or would I rather take the shot on maybe Marshawn Lloyd and grab a more valuable piece in this spot that you're taking, Josh Jacobs? He's a guy I'm going to have very minimal exposure to this year. I just do not like the situation at all, especially with the pass catchers. Jordan Love's going to throw 35 touchdowns, maybe even 40 with all those guys. So I just think that pie is shrinking for Josh Jacobs, and that he needs to be fed. He's a thickin'.
Yeah, it's really weird for Josh Jacobs. I don't even think I have a lot of exposure for him in best ball, and when I see more of it, getting closer towards August, and I keep looking at him, I'm like, he's someone I'd really like to have as my RB2 more than my RB1, but he's going as your RB1 at price tag wise. So for me, I just think he's a little overpriced. So I do agree with that. It's just hard, man, because what he did for the Raiders when he was healthy and everything else like that. He was, unhappy last year, came in, signed a contract he really didn't want. Could have been a part of it where he just kind of wasn't playing to his full strength and didn't want to get hurt. So he was being very, precautious with himself. Who knows? So I see time in. Yeah, I was gonna say we see time in time out where guys skip the preseason for contract situation, and it hurts them in the regular season. Just not being exposed to that kind of work, whether it be an injury, they're just inefficient. So a lot of that, there's the narrative, 100%. He could come back and be ready because he's not that old. What is he, 26, 25? He came 25,
He came in really young out of Alabama. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities, but guys he's going around, I'd much rather have Isaiah Pacheco this year. I'd much rather have James Cook, question mark. I'd much rather have
Rashad White or Josh Jacobs.
I'd much rather have any other position at that point in the board. No, I don't know. I feel stupid, like I'm trying to galaxy brain it if I say Rashad White just because the household name is Josh Jacobs. But I think you're splitting hairs at that point. I'd be okay with either one of them, I believe.
Okay. I was trying to see where your line was with him, so that makes sense. My next guy is a quarterback. There's no bias in this podcast. I understand that we're Colts fans, and everyone's going to see this and be like, "Oh my god!"
Like we say that every episode.
I know, but we have to put it out there. So CJ Stroud is on my fallers list, and just hear me out. He's going around 63 overall. He's in the 5th round typically for 12-man leagues. You are drafting this guy at the ceiling. There's nothing that screams to me he's going to be QB6. I get the additions of Mixon and Diggs are amazing, but Stroud is a pocket passer at the end of the day, and a very good one at that. I mean, Dak, Goff, Tua all had more QB1 weeks than Stroud last season. Just I wanted to point that out for guys that are going
Russell
behind
Wilson
him.
did.
Yeah, like I think I went back and looked, and he had 40 rushes for like a little over 300 yards, and if you take out one of them, which was a QB kneel, so 39 rushes for 400 yards. He had 2 touchdown rushing, but again, like that, I think what you'll see again this year, he doesn't have to do a lot. He's got 3 excellent weapons, and he's got a really good tight end and a really good running back. I just don't see him needing to scramble a lot. There's also a good chance that the Texans have a good defense where their offenses have to do a whole lot too. Like, when you look at the team as a whole, yeah, exactly. When you look at the team as a whole for the Texans, they are going to compete. I have no issue saying that as a Colts fan. Like, they probably are closer to double-digit wins than we are at this moment just because of the way they're structured. Now, that does impede on their fantasy implications too because they don't need to rely on Stroud as much.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Stroud, same argument with Burrow. You're drafting a guy that is so fun to watch, but you forget that even though he's that much fun to watch, QB is broken in fantasy. So that fun through the air just doesn't really matter when you have guys like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Anthony Richardson running up and down the field, crushing any. Like, Anthony Richardson outscored CJ Stroud in 2 of his games, and he only played half those games. He needs a half a game to put up what CJ Stroud would need all game to throw the 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So you're buying at ceiling, and we just do not do that here at Too Much Football. We take too much value. We take too much good opportunity. I had one. We had one, so we'll write it on the first one.
I just want to show you this, though. I'm on Fantasy Pros rankings. I always like to pull up other different rankings compared to mine. Who's higher, Stroud or Richardson on Fantasy Pros?
I'm going to guess Stroud.
He is. He's number 5. And
Get out of here!
Which is just like that's a little crazy because, like, again, rushing upside for a quarterback is king for fantasies. But yes, I digress.
And Stroud didn't play a full season. He missed, what, 2 games last year?
Yeah,
So
he
the
missed two
pocket
for
QB,
concussion.
yeah, the pocket QB can still miss games. So I don't get out of here with your injury BS. Joe Burrow, pocket quarterbacks, missed 2 of his 4 seasons. So if that's the argument you're dying on with Anthony Richardson, I'm not even playing ball with you. My next down faller, I brought him up a little bit ago. I kind of forgot he was a faller. Davante Adams, nowhere. I have no clue what I'm doing with this guy. I've got a very less than 5% exposure to Davante Adams. I pick him just for correlation purposes. I just don't believe it. The more I look into, he knows what Gardner Minshew is, and Gardner Minshew's not pushing the ball down the field. Davante Adams likes to go down there and go get it. So do we see an Aiden O'Connell push? Are we going to see a 50-50 split between these two quarterbacks? What does that mean? I don't know. This defense kind of turned it around Las Vegas last year, but was that that push, that inspirational push that you get when the quarterback or when the head coach gets fired and you bring in this guy that everybody likes? So I'm not sure if I'm actually bought into the Raiders being a decent team, at least on the defensive end. So I'm really out. Rashad White, or not Rashad White, Zamir White, the running back for the Raiders. I'm not in on him either. Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, the 2 tight ends. It's a messy thing out there in Vegas, and I really see them all as fallers right now.
Yeah, it's Devonte Adams is so weird. I just think in your home leagues, you're going to have a guy who sees the name and takes him. So I wouldn't worry so much about that aspect of it. I just because when I have Devonte Adams, looking at him in Fantasy Pros, he's like the 14th wide receiver, which is about where I would think he's at. He's 15. You got to give him still respect on the name. He still puts up numbers when he's on the field, but I just think he's more closer to wide receiver 2 than he is going to be a 1 this year. So if you're drafting him as your wide receiver 2, sure. I mean, by all means, it's not a bad wide receiver 2.
He'll spike.
I just don't think you want him to be your 1 though, and that's where where he is in the draft. You typically might be taking him as your 1 because you took a Jahmyr Gibbs, a Jonathan Taylor, or a Bijan, whatever the case may be, as your first overall pick. So I agree with that.
Yeah, I totally see him getting pissed off once a month and getting a 20-target game where he finishes, 15 receptions for 111
150 yards. Yeah, it's something crazy. Just wins you in DK all that money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What DK Metcalf did against the freaking Cowboys, that 3-touchdown game. Oh,
crazy.
I was on the losing end.
Oh, man. My next guy is Dave Montgomery. He's going, around 76, early 6th round pick. I just think it's more so of the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs is really going to hurt his production. I think he's going to be the goal line back, but I just think Gibbs is going to essentially eat into his carries and his chances on the field. I just think he's going to be so limited. They worked Gibbs in slowly last year, because obviously we watched that first week and he only touched the ball a few times, but when he had the ball in his hands, you were just you need to give this guy the ball more. And then it just took him a while to finally figure out that, this guy that we drafted 12th overall is really, really good. We should probably, played him a lot of snaps in week 1. But, I just think at the end of the day, I know everyone's going to be oh, but Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a receiving back. He's definitely going to run in between the tackles a few times. I bet you that much. And it's going to take away some of those chances that you saw with Dave Montgomery being, what was he, RB, 6 last year? What was it, through week 13 or something like that? Something crazy? Yeah, you are basically taking him at the floor of what he'll be, which will be a goal line back, and you're hoping for 50 yards and a touchdown.
You have to have that touchdown with him.
Yeah, and that's what you're banking on every week for him to be. I'd much rather have Alvin Kamara. I'd much rather have James Conner, Najee Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, maybe even DeAndre Swift. That's where I probably cut the line at for him.
Yeah, throwing a lot of names that I would like to just put them all in the same bucket. It's a weird situation. I don't hate him for fantasy. I think that there will be tons of points there, but it's because I believe that yet again they will have a running back for the 3rd year in a row that hits 14 touchdowns. So if he's out there on the field, if he's not injured, what he missed 3-4 games last year. As long as he's out there, I still think he's going to be scoring a touchdown 70 to 80% of the time. But on those weeks that he doesn't have it, you need to be prepared that he's probably going to give you 2 to 5 points at max, without that touchdown, because he's not catching passes, and he'll probably be on the 40 end of the 60-40 split between him and Gibbs.
Okay. Yeah.
My loser, and yes, this guy is a loser. Stefon Diggs is my next faller here. Sorry, Stefon. You're going above Tank Dell, and I'm just not doing that. You're going right behind Nico Collins. I'm not doing that shit either. I don't know. The price has me out. The age, the decline we saw last year. I know that there's a lot of narratives that can help kind of alleviate some of the gross inefficiencies that he had, but I just have no reason to believe that this guy in a wide receiver room with two other talented young wide receivers, like you said, a good tight end and a good running back, I just don't see there being a big enough pie piece for Stefon Diggs at his ADP to return anything that I'm happy with. And he's going to be, it's going to be the give and go. 15 points this week, 3 the next point. 12 this week, 1 this week. And that's what I can't. I rage when that happens with wide receivers. So I'll pass.
Yeah, I don't think the stability will be there for him anymore. I think, I'm looking at the rankings here on Fantasy Pros. George Pickens or Stefon Diggs?
Ew, George Pickens. I don't like either one.
Let's do T. Higgins or Stefon Diggs.
T. Higgins.
Okay. Let's do Malik Neighbors or Stefon Diggs.
I'll take Neighbors. And folks, as I'm saying this too, I'm dug in a little bit more than I am on my average takes on players. I'm just not in on Diggs. It's going to take. I think I'm probably going to go 3 or 4 players below ADP or consensus on Fantasy Pros on Diggs. Just FYI.
Yeah, there's a few names I could see here. I think your line would probably be Zay Flowers, if I had to guess.
I take Zay.
Really? Oh my goodness! How far do I got to go down here? All right, I'll drop down to third. Okay, it's got to be this. This is the name: Keenan Allen or Stefon Diggs. That's as low as I'll go. Okay. Oh, don't even. Really? You're telling me
I might take Keenan Allen. I think I would take Keenan Allen over Stefon Diggs.
Oh my god! All right, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna go this far. Jordan Addison or Stefon Diggs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stefon Diggs.
All right.
Well, look, no Hockenson. Sam Darnold finally has a good. No, I'm kidding. I do like Addison's chance at being good the first 6 to 8 weeks, especially with no Hockenson. But yeah, I guess I'll take Stefon Diggs. I do think that if he's successful this year, it's on the back of an 8+ touchdown season. I can see him having close to half of the volume that we're used to him seeing, but still being a overproducer on touchdowns. And I think that's where you're going to win it with him this year.
Fair enough. All right, so my next guy, you actually talked about how you have a decent amount of stock in for best ball is Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He's going around 77, so it's mid-6 overall. I can understand the obsession for him just because one, he was a first-round pick last year. He was kind of sat behind. He sat behind Tyler Lockett in the depth chart, and I think he'll see the field more with Grubb, running a ton of 3 wide receiver sets at the University of Washington. But the underlying metrics for him weren't that really in favor of Njigba. Separation was really low. Anything of the yak, all the routes per run yards, he was really low in all the metrics from what I saw. I just think, to be honest with you, I'd rather have Lockett, who's just going a few picks later. I think he's going 81, 82 overall. I just think at the end of it all, I just think Lockett still has more receptions and more yards than Njigba when it comes to the end of the year.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I'm not going to lie, especially with Lockett getting an extension in the offseason. Yeah. Just them putting a little bit more love onto the Lockett side. I think my big thing that's really drawing me there, it's the second-year players. I love betting on second-year players. The ceiling that they can give you when you're kind of surrounded by guys like Keon Coleman, Jamison Williams, Cortland Sutton, Curtis Samuel. None of those guys really ring the bell for me. Are they going to be their role player as wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 for you? Absolutely. If you're looking for that floor play from them, I get that. But I just think at this point in the draft, I'm willing to take my shot because if Keon Coleman doesn't wrap out in the first couple of weeks, I'm okay cutting with him and moving on. So if I think I'm going between, maybe the two of those guys, JSN just feels a lot higher upside than most of the other players, except for a guy going right ahead of him, Christian Watson, who did not make my risers because I didn't want to hear an earful from Brennan. But God, I love me some Christian Watson this year.
There's a thing called too much.
Have you seen the branding?
It's right above your head. There's a thing called too much.
Yeah, that worked out perfectly too. That one. You get the too much from me, and you get the football from Brennan. It's a match made in heaven here.
There you go.
My last faller I want to bring up. Funny enough, I've said his name a handful of times today. TJ Hockenson. Why and what in the world are we doing? Is this guy have an ADP that's still somewhere in the early to mid teens? At least in best ball anyway, we're still seeing Hockenson go way earlier than he should. I'm looking at him tight end 16, so he's dipped a little bit more. But when you have someone who's going to start, presumably, all 17 games, and Hunter Henry, who is possibly the number one target in an offense, I just don't understand why you're taking a TJ Hockenson, who might only play the fantasy playoffs. They take about a month to ramp up these players. So even if he misses just the first 2 months of the season, it's freaking, almost 12 weeks by the time, 12, 14, 16 weeks by the time we see this guy really producing. So I'm out on Hockenson. If you have an IR spot in your redraft team, if you can get him with your last pick, sure, grab him, throw on your IR, sit him, grab a more functional player. But if you're having to spend any more than, the first handful of picks on the guy, wait. Just freaking wait. Somebody's going to drop him and get pissed off because they had to hold him for so damn long.
Yeah, I understand the name. Like, he has the name and you see it and you're like, oh, well, ACL, those, injuries are coming back, quicker than ever. And he tore what, November, right?
Yeah, late November,
December, something like that. Yeah, I just have a hard time seeing him be 100% ready to go by week 8. I don't even know what he's projected. I just know it's not even going to be the first 6 weeks. And who's going to be the quarterback? Is it Sam Darnold? Is it JJ McCarthy? At the end of the day, it's still Justin Jefferson who still gets all the looks. I understand the infatuation of taking him with your second to last pick, and that's your IR stash. I'm just gonna stash him. I get it. I'd rather not. I don't want to wait that long because at the end of the day, let's just say that someone you picked second overall, throwing a name out there, Mike Evans pulls a hamstring. Now he needs to go to the IR. Most leagues only have one IR spot. I mean, that's just how it is. Most have updated it from the COVID. I know during COVID, most people have voted for 2. I'm getting really, really specific here, but I think most standard is 1. So then you're going to cut TJ Hockenson because you're not going to let Mike Evans go. You're going to let somebody else stash him at that point. So you're really gambling on your team being 100% healthy all the way through, which is, if your team's healthy all throughout fantasy football, I envy you. Out of all the drafts I do, there's always somebody that gets hurt where he's got to go on IR. So,
yeah, TJ Hockenson is what we like to call landmine, folks, and we don't like those in our pockets. We put those in our opponents.
Yeah.
But before we blow up this episode and wrap it up, Brennan, make sure we tell everybody where can they find you and all this wonderful fantasy football that you bring to the show. Because they're not getting it.
You can find me on the X, FFAN BMulk. I am in the network with the Fantasy Football Advice Network, also on Facebook as well. I respond back to both. So if you ever see me on there, you can just shoot me a message, tell me I suck, whatever the case may be.
You can find me in the same places. I am here all over the Fantasy Football Advice Network on the YouTube channel. We've got Too Much Fantasy Football, Too Much Best Ball, and of course on Twitter you can find me at @TooMuch_Brian. And folks, if you haven't checked out the platform, we have finally dropped the new revised version of the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Go there for all of your football, basketball, and baseball needs. It's like Twitter but not toxic. We've changed it up. We're only dropping the great fantasy football stuff, and it's all in one website. We've got your rankings, we've got videos, we have podcasts, everything you can want for this season. So come check it out. Hang out with us all season long. But until then, we'll see y'all next time.